everyone, and welcome back to Evelyn and Peter. I'm really excited for what I have to show you guys today. I know it's a little bit different than what I normally work on. I know I am definitely a crocheter and I post all crochet stuff, but I also really like to knit as well. I am definitely a beginner knitter, so if you are more of an advanced knitter or want something a little more detailed, this pattern is definitely not for you and I would move on to a different pattern. But if you're a beginner and maybe you've never knit before or you've only dabbled a little bit in it, then this will be perfect for you. I actually have the pattern free on my blog, so if you want to head to enpcrochet.com, you can follow along there, or you can also grab the PDF in my Ravelry and Etsy account, or if you want to get the kit, which comes with the digital download pattern and the yarn that you need to make this pattern, then you can go to linebrand.com and get it there. I'll have links below for all of that. But this is the pattern, and it's called the Mayflower Cowl. It's just a super chunky, oversized cowl, and you need a super bulky weight yarn. I use Lion Brand 50/50, which is 50% alpaca and 50% wool, but it's really fun to work with, really easy to work with. It works up really beautifully. Great for a beginner if you want your stitches to work up quick. And it's also enough to make a child size version. So this is the kids version, and it's just like the adult size version, except a tiny bit smaller, less stitches, less rounds. But if you are using the same yarn as me, then you will need one ball of charcoal and one ball of the cream color, and that's actually enough to make two cowls. You can make one adult size cowl and one child size cowl with it. So it's perfect for mommy and me sets, or just matching, or you can give the extra one away, or if you just want to make more than one as practice. But I wanted you to be able to use up all of that yarn since it's so awesome. But yeah, I hope you guys like this pattern, and be sure to follow along for more. And if you have any ideas or comments, just leave them below, and I hope you like it. One more thing that I wanted you guys to know is I used these size US 36 or 20mm knitting needles, and I know sometimes that needles this large can be hard to find. I did find mine online on Amazon, but I know that they also carry them in some crafting stores. But if you can't get your hands on them, it's fine to use a different size needle. I recommend using US 17, US 19, or US 35 size knitting needles. It's really easy to just adjust and accommodate the stitches if you're using a smaller needle. Just go ahead and add a few more stitches to your cast on, or if you're wanting your cowl to be longer because it's not working up as long, then just go ahead and you can add some more rows within the stripes, or you can do another repeat of each stripe. But yeah, so it's really easy to just customize and switch it up if you need to. So to get started, you're just going to need some super bulky yarn. I'm using Lion Brand's 50/50, which is half wool, half alpaca, and it is a weight of 6. It's really soft and really fun to work with. I'm just using a cream color and a charcoal color. And then you will also need some knitting needles. I'm using US 36 or 20mm circular needles. So to get started with the child size, I'm just going to use the charcoal color to start off the first stripe, and we're going to make a slip knot. Just wrap it around your fingers, grab the yarn, pull it up, and then insert your needle. Pull it snug, but not too tightly because you want to be able to easily move the yarn down the needle. Place your fingers like this, wrap it under, over, and back through, pull tight, and you'll just be casting on a total of 34 stitches for the child size. If you're making an adult size, you'll need to cast on 44 stitches. If you're using different size needles, it's really easy to adjust the width and the height of your cowl. So if you weren't able to find these size needles and maybe you're using a pair that are a little smaller, you can just maybe add on a few more stitches when you cast on and just play around with the amount that you want. So it's really easy to just add on or take away, make it as wide as you want. And then at the end, if you want to make it taller, you can easily just add more rows. So go ahead and just cast on as many as you want. If you're following along with me, I'm doing the child size and we'll cast on 34 stitches and 44 for adult. Okay, and I've just completed my cast on round. I have 34 stitches casted on. If you're following along with the child size, you should have the same amount. If you're doing the adult, I casted on 44. So just go ahead and place your stitch marker to hold your spot. And then holding the working yarn, you're just going to insert your needle into that first loop on the left needle, wrap your yarn around, and then slip it through, and then slide that loop off the left needle. And that's one knit stitch made. And again, in the next one, just insert your needle, wrap the yarn around, pull it through, and slip it off the left needle. That's 2 knit stitches. And you're just going to do this all the way around. So do the same thing into the third. You'll do this all the way around until you have done it a total of 34 times and you are back around to your stitch marker. And I'm just going to assume that now you are craving Reese's Peanut Butter Cup bats. Okay, and now I've worked my way back around and I'm at the stitch marker. So you're just gonna slip that stitch marker from your left needle to your right needle, and now you can start the next round. So we're just gonna do the same thing as the previous round. Knit your first stitch, knit your second stitch, knit every single stitch all the way around until you're back to the stitch marker again. Your stitch count won't change, it'll stay the same. So if you've casted on 34 stitches, you should still have 34 stitches. And once you complete this round, you can just go ahead and do the exact same thing for one more round. So you should have casted on and then worked a total of 3 rounds with the charcoal color, and then we're gonna change colors. Okay, and now you should have completed your 3rd round, and now we're gonna switch colors. So just switch your stitch marker over from the left needle to the right needle, insert your needle into that first loop, and then go ahead and pick up your new yarn, loop it around your right needle, and then just pull it through, and then pull that yarn off the left needle. So now we're going to be working with our white yarn. So you should be holding the working yarn of the white and no longer holding the charcoal, and then just work a normal knit stitch into each loop on the left needle. And just as you were doing before, just work a knit stitch in each stitch all the way around until you reach the stitch marker. Okay, now we're back to our stitch marker, so go ahead and slip it over, and then instead of working a knit stitch, this time you're going to take your right needle, go from top to bottom, and then just pull it off of the left needle and onto the right, and then work your normal knit stitch into the next loop. This will help make the color transition look better, and it won't have a jagged look. This way, if someone sees the back of your cowl, the seam will look nice and straight and it won't have a little crooked line from the color change. And to continue this round, just go ahead and work one knit stitch in each stitch around. Okay, now we're starting off round 3, so just slip your stitch marker and then work your normal knit stitch. Go ahead and do this all the way around, and then when you reach the stitch marker, slip it over one more time, and then complete your 4th round using the white color, and then we will switch back to the gray color. Okay, so you should have just finished your 4th round using the white, and now we're going to pick up the gray yarn. So when you work that first knit stitch, instead of picking up the white, go ahead and pick your gray back up. And then you can just continue around as normal, working a knit stitch all the way around, but this time using gray yarn. Okay, and now that we've reached back to the stitch marker, go ahead and slip it over, and we're going to do the same thing as before when we change to the cream colored yarn. We are going to not do a knit stitch, but just slip our needle down from top to bottom on that left side, and then just pull it off over onto your right needle. And then you can go ahead and work your next knit stitch as normal, and then just work a knit stitch all the way around until you hit back to the stitch marker. Continue the same exact process and doing 4 rounds of the charcoal, and then switch to cream and do 4 rounds of the cream, and then switch back to gray and do 3 rounds of the gray. And now I will show you guys how to bind off. So you should have 3 rounds of the gray completed now, and we're going to bind off our work because we are finished. So just knit that first stitch, knit that second stitch, and then slip your needle onto that first stitch that you just knit and pull it over that second one and off your needle. Make sure that that other loop doesn't slide off your needle. You can kind of hold it with your finger just to be sure, and then go ahead and knit another stitch. Take your left needle, slip it over that first loop again, and just slide it off, and do it again. Work another knit stitch, loop your needle under, and just slide it off. We're going to do this all the way around, alternating doing 1 knit stitch and then sliding it off the right needle. So just continue this all the way around by knitting 1 and then slipping 1 off the right needle. You can see here that our stitches are coming off of our needles now. Just do this all the way around until you reach the stitch marker. So you can see that I have just 1 loop left on my left needle. I'm going to work my last knit stitch, take that last little loop of yarn, pull it over, slide it off. So I only have 1 loop left on my right needle now. And you can just kind of tug it up a little bit so there's a loop. And you can see that all of the loops are off and we've binded off. So just pull the end of your yarn up a little bit, and now we can cut it and weave in the ends. So just pull it up and then cut your yarn, leaving a little bit of tail length so that you can weave those ends in. pull that tail of the yarn through the loop and then pull it a little tight to secure it. You can see it leaves just a little space in between the first and the last stitch. So you can either use a crochet hook or a yarn needle or even your fingers if you can, and just insert your hook into that very first stitch that you had made in that round, and then just pull the tail of the yarn through. And that's it. Now you can weave your ends in with your yarn needle. And this is a really good project to customize. You can add more rows if you want to, but this is as much as I'm doing for the child size. Be sure to check out my printed pattern available in my shops and on my blog.